Are you ready?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our April board meeting. We will resume open session and ask David if you wouldn't mind reading out report of actions in closed session.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Geary. The board
Item 9, do we have any deletions or corrections to the posted open session agenda? Not from staff? Do you remind me, do I go? No. Okay. Item 10, do we have any audience input tonight? This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on items which are not on the agenda. If we don't have any, then I won't go through the rest of the rules. All right, doesn't look like we have any public comment tonight. Item 11, any input from employee association? All right, moving on. Item 12, President and CEO monthly highlights. Anna, welcome.
Good evening. CHRO. It has been accepted. They will be here later in the summer. They are a working CHRO, so we'll come back later with some announcements around names and details and exact times, but we could not be more thrilled. It was a very competitive process. Our HR team culled through really applicants from all over the nation, and we're really excited to come back with more details on that. But they actually are moving to the area, and they already have a place, so they're really going to be here. So we're really excited. So we're very, very excited, but I also just want to acknowledge it's a lot of work from our HR team. So and many of our leaders, as well as employee associations and others who were on panels. So this is a really exciting announcement for me to make. I want to just go very quickly over a couple of highlights. We talked about last month about a couple of things that were going to be happening, and I just want to say we did actually, our redesign team did hold focus groups with 17 members of the community. We heard a little bit about that earlier, but I do want to make sure the public knows we did get some key learnings out of that, and one of those was that people want more options around when to access care. So evenings and weekends rose to the top around access, as well as they wanted different kinds of care, telemedicine, virtual care, and you're going to hear a lot more about this in the 5,000 Voices presentation later tonight, but I just wanted to make sure we delivered on what we said we were going to do. We also want to make sure that the board and the public know that we are in the midst of a lot of work. You will hear next month our True North first draft, and sort of this year's kind of working draft will be coming to the board along with the budget in May. Part of what will be how we're going to get a lot of that work done is we are proposing a nerve center, if you will, a transformation management office. It won't be like an office with a door. It'll be actually my door or the executive suite door. But we are standing up a group, and many will be getting invitations. We'll be moving staff in and out of that group, and we'll be working on several work streams that are focused on access, community, also leadership, as well as physician alignment and integration, which is sort of been a focused area, and I think an area where we've made lots of gains, and we're excited to make more in the coming days. We also are really centralizing the work and putting together those structures that help to support and drive change, as well as to track kind of our progress. And again, we'll be using, I think, this multidisciplinary group of advisors that will come from the front lines, the middle of the organization, and up to the board, that will really help ensure that we're really turning our true north strategy into actual action, which is easier said than done. but I have a lot of confidence, and we'll be coming back to the public to talk about that on an ongoing basis. And again, I will go to the next slide now. I just wanted to put this out here because I mentioned it, and I sort of held up the certificate. We had found out the day before our last board meeting, we did in fact get accredited for a geriatric emergency department accreditation. I want to make sure that the members of the public understand that this is really our commitment to ensure we really are migrating to a age-friendly health system. We live in such a wonderful, diverse area, and we actually have a very healthy, active population, and we have people who really want to age in place right here in this North Lake Tahoe region. I'm not naming any names, but I might be one of them too, Dale. I also kind of want to just try this out. I mean, I know that many people, I don't actually keep up with our social media as much as I should, but we have a really great social media team, and they're doing really, they're actually in an active kind of discussion and conversation with our community. And I just wanted to give you a couple of highlights of things that we're talking about with the community. Also on our social media, our Instagram, you can find different small video snippets from people like Dr. Evans and other providers across our system. And a little bit of preview for the community. Keep your ears out on, what is this radio station called again? KTKE. KTKE 101.5.
Most locals know that radio station.
I'm sorry. I do want to say something. I do too, because my dogs were featured on the Facebook page of that radio station. But more importantly, Dr. Evans actually recorded his first radio spot yesterday. So this will be, we'll see, he could be podcast famous very soon. So we're going to do everything we can to, hang on to him and make sure he has a platform with a really loud, amplified voice there. I also wanted to just very quickly end with reminding everybody and start to save the date here. September 25th, our fall forum is taking shape. I do want to make a little correction. We have Dr. Dhaliwal, and we are having the Hobb Day Medical Lectureship. I do want to just own the fact that we don't want to necessarily, we're working with a community advisory group, some of which are here today, and also including Pam Hobb Day, and we will make sure that we get the right speaker for that particular hour. It may be Dr. Dhaliwal. I think he has been the Thomas Hobb Day Medical Lectureship featured speaker once before, but we did secure Dr. Dhaliwal, and I just want to congratulate Dr. Evans on that, because we secured him, and then he was featured in the Atlantic maybe a week later, and so I was like, tell me you secured him, and he did. So again, we are working alongside a team to kind of put together that curriculum. I will say that I did talk this morning to the town manager, and we are going to be thinking about, not only is this about us learning in the medical field, but we are going to carve out some time for the medical field to learn from the community, and so more on that, but I just want you to mark your calendars and save the date. with that, that is my highlights. And we will come back later and we'll talk a little bit more about the 5,000 voices, but I'm happy to answer any questions or take any questions from the public at this time. Thanks.
Let's start with the board. Any comments, questions? And to the public, any comments or questions on anything Anna presented? All right.
And we do have, I believe, virtual public comment now available, so we do want to make sure that we check that as well.
We do.
And there's a light. That,
I believe I'll get a green light if we have, yes. Watching it. As Anna referenced, we actually do have a fairly stacked agenda tonight. So moving on, item 13, Medical Staff Executive Committee.
So Anna alluded to some really excellent presentations coming up. I don't think this was the one she was referencing, but
Do not sell yourself short. Yes.
so there's one privilege and then several policies to be discussed tonight. The first is the emergency room policy, and for all those pages, the bottom line is that they moved procedural sedation into the routine ER privileges instead of being a special privilege that had to be approved separately. So that was the entire emergency policy. If you go to the next to last page of that policy, you can see procedural sedation is now in the policy rather than where it used to be down below. Next is the standardized procedures for oxygen administration and pulse oximetry. And basically, this is a policy that allows the respiratory therapist to start oxygen on somebody without having to wait until the doctor writes the order. The next is another standardized procedure allowing a nurse to assess a patient, determine that they are high risk for fracture, and proceed with a standard protocol for initiating a workup on that patient. It's intended to reduce delays of care, and if you look on the second page of the policy, the risk statement basically clarifies that the risk is that failure to provide a standardized procedure for expediting care of patients presenting to the emergency department with a suspected extremity fracture or dislocation may result in delays in treatment and compromised patient outcomes. So this is just a policy to cover nurses who have the skill set to be able to assess and then initiate an evaluation. The next is a series of, the next is there's a summary of the extremity fracture or dislocation protocol. And then finally, the next set is the labor and delivery changes. And these were none of them substantial, all of them just set to be in aligned with changes in standard protocols. And then one more policy on dues and fees. Pretty straightforward. It's just how we make sure it happens. So any questions on any of these?
Just the DED 1803, that had the most red and green on it. Was that primarily, it looks like a lot of formatting. Did
So-
you just come across as heavy changes or?
Correct. It just
Yeah.
came across as heavy changes. Basically, they were just putting it into the same format that other policies are in. There were no substantial changes in the entire policy. Yeah.
Didn't look like it, but
Going back to that, it's been in existence, but are there classes that the nurse has to do, or is it already part of their license to be able to do that?
Well, so this is creating a policy that allows them to do that. In other words, they're following a standard protocol, just like the nurses who do the indirect nursing, they can operate within that protocol.
Okay.
That's all they can do, and any nurse in the ER can do that.
Okay, Good to know.
Any other comments, questions?
I did mine.
Good, thank you. From the public, any comments on these items? No. All right, this is an item for action. We'll be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Let me see consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve 13.1, the Medical Executive Committee consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, approved 4-0. Thank you, Dr. Cope. All right, item 14, consent calendar. And just as a reminder, these items are expected to be routine and non-controversial, and they'll be acted upon without discussion and also as a group. However, there is an opportunity for board or staff to pull an item for discussion. So are there any items that we would like to pull for discussion?
Nothing.
No. Okay. We're looking for a motion.
I move that we approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, consent calendar approved 4-0. Thank you. Now we're getting into the good stuff. We have two items for discussion tonight. The first one, 15.1, Tahoe Forest Health System Foundation and Incline Village Community Hospital Foundation update. Carly, welcome. Something we look forward to every year.
Okay, let's just make sure this works. Hi, everyone. Carly Bennell, Executive Director of the Incline Village Community Hospital Foundation and Tahoe Forest Health System Foundation. I will do my best to get through this because certainly I could, if anybody's met me, I could talk about this for a long time. Probably the rest of your meeting and then then you all won't have time. But as a brief overview, the foundations, both foundations are two separate 501c3s. We support the philanthropic efforts of the organization, all of the private fundraising, and then of course the state and federal grants as well. So I'll start with, I think that it's really important anytime we talk about the foundation is to really understand that for the community, by the community. I never get tired of talking about the Joseph family and the fact that our hospital exists because of the tragic event that happened and the donation of the land upon which we sit. And, we were born out of philanthropy. It's who we are. And I think that it represents the way our community is as well. So the foundation, both foundation, the mission is to support this organization, to improve healthcare locally, and to kind of carry that vision forward. There's been a lot of visionaries that have supported that effort since, and you'll hear a little bit about the Cancer Center, but certainly the Upshaw family, and then lots of individual folks along the way. So we know that there's a deep history that's been born out of philanthropy, and a lot of community individuals have supported us for many, many, many years. Okay, so we'll start with some impact. Again, this is an annual report, so this is within the year of the things that we've supported. This is Tahoe Forest Health System. One of the things that we noticed in working with the OB department, kind of around the 75th anniversary and trying to figure out what those needs were of the Joseph Family Center for Women and Newborn Care, we were realizing that Truckee and North Lake Tahoe was becoming a bit of a maternity desert. Quincy closed their OB, Mammoth closed their OB, and we were starting to see a lot of challenges of people forced with difficult choices, either traveling farther to receive their care or, potentially home births as well. So there were a lot of situations where people were delivering on 267, a few people delivered in our ambulance bay, in our ED, and Dr. Kara Strite, whom I love, she came to us with the idea that if we had a simulation mannequin that we could train with our partners, with our ED, that it could really make an impact. and we were able to partner with Martis Camp Foundation and our own internal employees, and our own internal employees donated $75,000 to support this effort, and then Martis Camp matched that dollar for dollar, thanks Martis Camp Foundation, for $60,000 to support purchasing Victoria and her 2 little babies, Tori and 1 and Tori 2. And if you all have had a chance to see her, she is extraordinary, and she can deliver breech, hemorrhage, C-sections, and so it was not a joke. A big step up from the simulation mannequin that we had before. That is Victoria, and that is Tori right there. We were able. I'm not sure. I can neither confirm if that's Tori 1 or Tori 2. But this is, we hope, I think the next closest one is in Sutter. So these are things that are difficult for our health system to purchase. So I always think about philanthropy as being able to do things that are difficult for the health system to do without it and those private dollars. So that was one of our items this year. And then, of course, we have a lot of what we would call transformational and major gifts. We had 2 gifts at Tahoe Forest Health System Foundation that were over $500,000 this year. One was an estate gift, so people that include us in their trust and wills and estate plans. And then one was from an individual family. 2 gifts over $70,000, and then 2 gifts over $50,000. I want to talk about some of these large ones because they do make a significant impact, but as we move forward, you'll kind of see that also collective giving and that small giving makes a huge difference as well. But things are strong in the major giving department. It's basically impossible to talk about our foundation at Tahoe Forest without talking about the Cancer Center. That's been a long-standing, like the heartbeat of what the foundation has done in many of our events in the past. When the Cancer Advisory Council was formed, there was the idea of when you walk into that beautiful cancer center, there's the circle of life with all those names. And all of those funds were put into Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation in an endowment fund. So currently to date, we have $1.8 million, just roughly over that, at Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation for the public and the district board. We have never used any of those funds before, so as endowments go, you can only use the interest off of the principal. You can never touch the principal. We've never even used the interest, although it is available for sustainability purposes and programs, but our very, very dear partner, TTCF, is certainly safeguarding those assets. And we are constantly and consistently raising money for the Cancer Center, really to support those oncology support programs. Those are the patient and family care programs that really have differentiated our Cancer Center, the massage, acupuncture, wigs, hotel stays, gift cards, exercise programs, and those are offered to patients and families at the Cancer Center at no charge, and all funded by private philanthropy and the foundation. One of our favorite programs is our internal team member giving program. These, you'll kind of hear me talk a lot about the external, but also the internal is really incredibly important, and I think says a lot about engagement at our organization. We have over 300 of our employees that support the program. In 2025, we raised $86,000. And, again, one thing that is really important to us is that it's never about just the dollars that we raise, is what those dollars do. We're not here to collect money. We're here to deploy and support patient care. And so our team member donors get the opportunity to vote where those dollars go and support different programs around the organization. So you heard about one, Victoria and Tori 1, Tori 2, but also our patient care enhancement program, which you'll hear about, and of course our employee assistance fund, which supports our own employees during times of need. Our patient care enhancement program, this is a new program in 2025, and this was basically allocated to support some of those smaller needs that our organization has, and some of those things that maybe don't quite get into the capital budget, or needs that come up later but really impact patient care. And so we started with $20,000, and basically within the first month we used all of that. Who knew that blanket warmers were $5,000? I do now. But one of the first requests was actually a blanket warmer over at our Olympic Valley Clinic. And you can imagine, in terms of patient care, you come off the hill, you have an accident, and warmth is huge. That is patient enhancement, so and then diagnostic imaging was like, we could use a few more of those. So we did purchase 3 of those, and then we opened it up to the organization, so any department can request those funds up to $5,000. So we did 30 pelvic floor kits for our physical therapy team. We did a cardiac rehab treadmill, which you see here, pediatrics vitals equipment, care coordination field kits like to-go bags. And then because of sort of the need for this program, we allocated more funds. And then this year, thank you, Martis Camp Foundation, they gave and donated $40,000 for this program. So hopefully that will allow us to meet 8 more of these requests. And we just announced, I think this week, that we're reopening the patient care enhancement program. So hopefully we'll have more things to talk about next year that we funded. Incline, IVCH. So Incline Village Community Hospital Foundation impact, certainly for those of you that are aware of that very small, vital, lively hospital, a lot of the projects that we've done recently have been funded entirely by philanthropy. 2 very large ones that really highlight and showcase what it is that the foundations want to do across the organization, which is keep our patients local. The more we can do that, the better the outcomes. I remember Dr. Fountain has told me many times, like, better imaging equals better outcomes, and the fact that we can keep people local to get that better imaging is really important to us. So our diagnostic imaging revitalization project, that was a $7.8 million project that included our 128 slice CT, our 3D mammo. It had been about 2 decades since Incline had mammography, so bringing that back was absolutely incredibly massive. We fundraised all of those funds. $3.8 million came from Leona and Harry Helmsley Charitable Trust, and then the remainder we raised from private donors. Then moving into our surgery enhancement project. These are renderings because we have not started building this project yet, although we're working on the permitting for it. And this is the last original space at Incline Village Community Hospital, so we're talking asbestos abatement. It's a big project. But what we're really excited about is that this will allow us to have a separate GI procedure room and redo our OR. So that really adds capacity. That's another thing that the foundation always wants to do, is how can we help especially Incline remain sustainable, and adding those types of procedures is absolutely incredible. We have been blessed with some really talented providers over there in this space. So we're going to have new pre and post-op spaces. We're also going to redo our entire reception area. That project is a $10 million project. 7.8 came from Dave and Cheryl Duffield Foundation. That came last year. And then just this month, we closed our last final $1 million gift from a family in Incline. So we have now successfully fundraised for this $10 million project as well. And we'll be really excited when those renderings are actually photos. And that project's done and people are being seen in that space. On the Incline side, this year we've received 1 gift over $1 million, 1 gift over $600,000, and 4 gifts over $100,000. Again, I think that we're so lucky in all of our communities are around the lake and in Truckee that the vast majority, I would say 99% of people I work with are grateful patients. They're people that have had some experience at our hospital that has left a impression of our organization and made a difference in their family's life. So I feel incredibly blessed to hear some of these amazing stories day in and day out, and hopefully relay some of that back to our providers and care teams that take care of folks. Financials, just a little bit of an update for both foundations. This is fiscal year to date, so obviously we haven't closed the fiscal year, but Tahoe Forest Health System Foundation, we've raised $2.7 million to date this fiscal year. Incline, $3.3 million to date this fiscal year. In the last 5 years, we've raised $37 million in net funds. So we've had an incredibly successful little run here. And again, that really only makes a difference if we're able to then deploy that and support patient care. I think I probably say it too much, but our team, we want to support our patients just like our physicians and providers do. We may not be front line, but that is what we're trying to be out there doing. However we can create more access, community-focused care, that's certainly what we're trying to do. Our events. People certainly know us for our events. Historically, obviously, we have some of our chefs that have been supporting us through Best of Tahoe Chefs for a long time. We're now calling it Best of, and those funds are all area of greatest needs funds. This year, we used those to purchase fetal monitors for OB and future access to care projects, and we'll be really excited to see what happens this year and how we can support the True North and the 5,000 Voices through some of these events. Really fun. We love these events. And in Incline, we always host a lakefront reception hosted by one of our incredibly generous donors. And of course, last year, those funds supported our surgery enhancement project. It was supposed to be on the 4th of July. We didn't have fireworks, but I think that our team, we talked about we really created our own fireworks. We were really fortunate to still have just incredible support. People really show up for us. And then our annual campaigns, we have many, and one of the things that certainly I want to make sure everyone understands is that yes, we do have major donors, and yes, those funds do drive transformational projects, but we also have a lot of support organization and community-wide that are much more grassroots and ground level, and when everybody does a little, it certainly adds up to be a lot. So on Doctor's Day, that's when our community could thank a physician, their favorite physician, and those were $5 grams that we were able to deliver. There's Anna delivering Dr. Reichert's, and we delivered 536 Doctor's Day grams this year. We have a Grateful Patient program. That's a way for our patients to recognize the care that they received by making a charitable donation. And then, of course, Giving Tuesday. This year we had a $50,000 match for Giving Tuesday from one of our longtime Cancer Center supporters, but it's organization and community-wide, gifts as small as $5, gifts up to $50,000, and we raised $150,000 for the Cancer Center. Our Giving Tuesday campaign has supported the Cancer Center for the last, I would say, at least 5 years. And then I love to talk to people about all the different things that our organization does. There is, I feel, something that probably tugs at everybody's heartstrings somewhere here. Maybe it's not Joseph Family Center for Women and Newborn Care. Maybe it's Cancer Center. Maybe it's employee assistance. Maybe it's supporting our patients. But there is certainly something for everyone. We have this Patient Emergency Assistance Fund, which we provide car seats for OB and car seats for the ED because we can't discharge patients unless they have a safe place to put their children when they leave. We provide clothing for unhoused patients. So there's a fund for that. There's a fund for our own employees. There's a fund for the Cancer Center. There's equipment. There's technology. There's women and newborn care. So if there's something that calls to you, I promise we can deploy that and we can take gifts to support it. Grants, we're also the entity at the organization, the department that manages all of the grants. I've spoken to you all about Martis Camp Foundation. Of course, that's a private foundation. And then we do have 2 larger grants through the state and through the federal government supporting our addiction medicine programs, primarily a state opioid response grant and a HRSA grant. And we manage those as well. And then this year we have basically launched our Legacy Partner in Health program. We've partnered with Thompson and Associates to offer complimentary estate planning services for community members. It's a really incredible addition. It's somebody that has a high level of expertise in this area, certainly around tax smart giving, taxes, making charitable estate plans, or just any kind of estate plan. So if people are interested, this person comes on site once a month and meets with folks, goes through their entire plan, can give advice, and we've seen a lot of benefit in people learning a lot. And this is an incredible way to shape the future of our healthcare in our community by leaving these estate gifts and plan gifts. So this is kind of another lane that we're going into in terms of asset management. And there we are. And you know, we really, while we, again, may not be physicians, we know and feel that our work is absolutely saving lives and improving care in this region. And we certainly want to recognize and thank the district boards for supporting the foundations. One, for being ad hoc members and coming to our foundation meetings and sharing what you all are doing here, but also understanding that it's a little bit of a long play. It doesn't always pan out short term necessarily. And so the faith and support and trust that people have put into our organization and the foundation, we appreciate it. That's all I've got.
That's it?
That's it?
Dropping the mic.
So for those of you who haven't figured it out yet, the success of our philanthropic efforts is largely due to the energy, expertise, and enthusiasm put forth by Carly and her team, and they're to be applauded for that.
A great way to kick off the comments. Any additional comments, clarifications, questions?
I just want to say we are going to be looking to the foundation in the future as we look at transformation, but also as funding from governments are decreased, that, again, things like the philanthropic giving will be a very important part if we're going to continue to move forward with our organization. So we look forward to seeing you and working hard at it, and we'll be there at best of.
That's right, you have to be.
Yeah, actually, well, it's another question that builds on that, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What does the future of philanthropy look like for us, recognizing everything you said? I mean, we're coming under incredible threats from reduced funding, whatnot, incredible need emerging in the community. What do you see? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but if you could kind of shape philanthropy in the future, what would you like to see from either our efforts or the community? Or
I think it's an interesting gauge to look at the foundation and understand that trust level with the community. And so I would say, like, from this, I think our trust levels are high because, it's one thing to get care, and then it's another thing to be like, man, I want to give in honor of that care. But honestly, we have seen that philanthropy is an incredible source, especially, as we go into these unknowns. And, there's the big trends are a lot of people have put funding in DAFs, in donor advised funds. Those donor advised funds, what happens is you get the tax deduction immediately when you put your funds in a donor advised fund, and then they hold. Oftentimes people have a liquidity event, they'll make that gift without being like, oh, I'm going to give, $5 million to Tahoe Forest. So we're starting to see, those funds grow, they're invested. And so we're starting to see a lot more giving through those avenues. But we are seeing less giving from the next gen. So I think philanthropy overall is looking at how do we sustain when there's going to be a massive wealth transfer, and we know there's going to be a massive wealth transfer, but that next generation doesn't have the same philanthropic spirit. So that's going to be challenging. But I would say, one, looking at more of these estate plan gifts and taking gifts of complex assets. We've seen a lot more of that, giving of appreciated stock. So we're starting to see different avenues of people giving, and, I would assume that we'll continue to see that. But, crystal ball, it's hard to know, but we're doing our best to, be good stewards of the dollars that we do have.
Absolutely. And I apologize, I cut you off, but
Don't have a question or a comment, but thank you for that question. I think, I was struck by a couple of things that you said, that Tahoe Forest was born out of philanthropy. That's interesting. You know, this land was out because of care that could not be delivered, and from that. And, you know, you mentioned something for everyone. You know, that was obviously there, and I think that's just so important that, you know, in the day and age where everyone needs help of one sort or another, it's lovely to hear that the work of trying to make sure that you can reach out to everyone and understand that they can have employees, cancer patients, pediatric patients, newborns, that it really sings to the community. How can you rise? And I think the last one is that faith and trust, that you build that constant faith and trust, which is the center of a clinic visit, is a trust between a patient and a clinician, and you've built that so well here in your team. So congratulations, thank you. And to add on to your comment, whatever the future holds, having those bedrock, you know, those values, I commend you, and I think, you know, we're here to support us. Who knows what will happen down the future, but thank you.
And I will say, because of our MOU with the health system, so the health system, and thanks to you all, supports the operating expenses of the foundation. And then that allows us to work with our donors and tell them and ensure them that 100% of their gift goes directly to programs and services. And I always say, there is nothing wrong with fundraising for operating expenses. I worked for several nonprofits that is what you have to do. I'm very grateful to not have to do that now because of this relationship with the district. But it does allow our donors to really amplify because they're not, it just is going directly to programs and services, so we're really grateful for that. So thank you.
From the audience, any input, comments, questions, donations? I learned from the best. Yeah, you got to slide in whenever you can.
There's a jar
Right.
by the door.
Carly, thank you. All right. Continuing on, and I think appropriately so, when we're talking about community, get an update, 5.2, True North 5,000 Voices campaign update. Anna and Kim.
Yeah, I'm just opening for Kim, and I just really want to say I would like to read you the agenda so I never have to follow Carly again, because she's, you know, talking about something a little bit different. We have been talking a lot about the 5,000 voices. I just want to say Kim's going to walk us through some of those initial findings, but the time that we're approaching now is sort of moving from listening, which we won't stop doing, but now we're starting to add in action. And like, we are hearing some very clear direction from our community, and we're starting to now organize around that and set up work streams around that, and prepare ourselves to act on that. We have one very consistent message from the community, and that is access, access, and access. And this touches every part of how we deliver care. I want to make sure and reassure the community, or reiterate to the community, that we are looking, we're not actually, and they've asked us this too, we've looked to them for guidance. And I don't think the community is looking for isolated fixes, like just more. They really want us to look at the full care model, every door, create more doors. And so we're really starting to look at the entire system. We are taking a very disciplined look around how people enter our system, how they move through our system, and how they move to the next, whether it's home or to the next piece of the care system. There really isn't a single front door anymore. I'll just give a little spoiler alert and also a little bit promo of next month, to come to next month. I love that the room is starting to fill a little bit more, but you're going to hear about, both from the community tonight, but you're going to hear next month also, that people they want us to be their community health home. They want to have mobile health. They want to have virtual care. They want to have nighttime hours. They want to have weekend hours. They want to come in person when they want. These are complicated challenges and a system that's sort of been designed in a pretty fixed model. But we're excited to greet this challenge as your health system and work on that. I do want to say just a little bit about how we're going to do this work. The work is going to be really aligned around the community and our workforce's priorities. I also want to just add, just like a little bit of an underline there, that means bringing community members, our workers, physicians, and all of the stakeholders fully into the design process. And that will take approaching engagement in a different way. We talked a little bit about the highlights around how we had some community members come in. We've had facilitators come in to help us work with the community, and you can expect more of that going forward. It's not ending in May when we bring the initial True North strategy, because we're going to be refining that, and we're going to be doing that in partnership with our providers, our physicians and APPs, our workforce, clinical workforce, and our community members. A couple of goals that we just are going to ground this in, and then I'm going to hand over to Kim, which is improve access, strengthen and stabilize the foundation, build a system that delivers in a consistent way, that in a predictable way, and really ensure that we do that we create a care experience that's relationship-based. And that is sort of the root before we even talk about expansion, which we will talk about too. But I just want to make sure that people, we want to say, we heard you, we heard what you said to us, and we really appreciate that. I'm going to hand over to Kim now. I think you have the clicker, so take us away, Kim.
All right, so to break down a little bit of what Anna said, we've had more than 6,500 pieces of information come in to us through this campaign, through this effort. About 2,400 of them are the surveys, and the rest of them have been in-person events. You'll see that we've done more than 60 engagement activities. I'll just take a minute to thank Director Shamblin, who found himself as the staffer at a community event when we had a little hiccup with the staffer one morning. And so I want to thank you for being there and representing. That was
We ironed it out.
We feel like we have broad representation from across the communities. You can see, 17% were second homeowners, about 17% identified as non-white or preferred not to specify. A strong showing from those who are over 55. That I think is to be expected, as young, healthy people don't pay as much attention to healthcare as those of us who might need to access it more. So really glad to have heard from the community. As Anna mentioned, we did not get fragmented feedback. We got very clear feedback in terms of what people went. So let me walk you through a little bit of what that was. So people want reliable access to primary care. And when we talk about primary care, we talk about women's OBGYN, and we talk about pediatrics. There's frustration with the care wait times, and anybody who's attempted to make an appointment with us knows that that's the case. Right now, give or take a few, our third next available appointment is at about 43 days. So this has to be our key focus as we move forward, is how do we fix this? The community has been clear with us, do not take on expansion until you have figured out the basics. So we've heard that loud and clear. And one of the things that one of the places you'll see that reflected when we come next month is, we had sort of three buckets that we were looking at. We were looking at Healthcare for All, we were looking at Peaks of Excellence and Transformation. We're sort of renaming and resequencing some of those buckets in order to reflect what we've heard from the community. So you'll see that when we come back next year. Love this quote: timely care shouldn't feel like a competition. Next month, thank you. Yeah, I'm moving fast in my head. Timely care shouldn't feel like a competition. I think that sort of narrows down, and that was an actual quote that we got from somebody that we talked with. So one of the things that I found super fascinating, and there are a lot of things in the feedback we got that were not surprising, but still fascinating in the way that the community said it to us. One of the things that we heard is that we cannot separate affordability from care. that when people think about getting care, affordability and the lack of predictability on what care is going to cost factors into when and how they get care. They are not separate issues. They are intertwined. And so one of the ways that we've really seen that reflected from our community is that from 2024 to 2026, the number of community labs we're offering has grown by 32%. That's just one indicator that people are looking for affordability, and they're looking for predictability in price, because that's also another piece that we've sort of heard loud and clear. The word fear sort of caught me. Fear and uncertainty around billing. It is a true emotional reaction that people have in terms of what healthcare costs. And I want to say clearly, this is not an issue specific to Tahoe Forest. We operate in the United States of America. We operate in the health system in which we find ourselves, and this is a widespread problem, but that doesn't mean we can turn a blind eye to it, right? We need to be cognizant of what our community is telling us and what we can do within our own community to try to address affordability as part of access. So this is really what people want. So in person first. We've had a lot of conversation about, different modalities of care. People really come to Tahoe Forest because of the strong in-person care they get from the provider that they know, that they have a relationship with. So that is first and foremost. The other thing that we've really heard is that it can be complicated navigating our system. It can be complicated navigating any part of the healthcare system. But we have an opportunity, I think, to help people navigate through the care. Ann and I did a listening session earlier this week with the staff, and we had a provider who talked a lot about how much time she spends, talking with her patients about where to go to get a lab test, why they have to go someplace other than where they are. And that's one of the things that affects our third next available, is when our providers are doing that kind of work on our behalf. So how can we really help navigate our patients through care without relying on our providers to do that? And then telehealth and virtual when it helps. The idea there is, I want to have a physician that I know, and then if I need a prescription, if I have a cold, then I'm fine with a virtual visit, but I want to start with somebody that I know. So again, the frustration sort of with being passed around. They want somebody who knows their history. The one thing that I do want to talk a little bit about here is that we did sort of hear some different things from different parts of our community, and we're taking a little time to dive more closely into the information, but I wanted to pull some of that out for tonight's presentation. And so I looked very specifically at what we're hearing in the zip codes that start with the number 8, which are those communities that we care for on the Nevada side, as compared to the zip codes that start with the number 9, which are here on the California side. And we were sort of anecdotally feeling like we were hearing a lot about sort of the concept of concierge care on the Nevada side. And so I wanted to dive a little more into what we were actually hearing. And it turns out that what we were hearing was not necessarily a trend that concierge was the way to go, but that there was a strong desire for convenient care. That's really where it comes down to. When I need care, I want to be able to get it now. I want to be able to get it where I am. I wanted to be able to get it quickly. So that was sort of an interesting piece to me, that it's not about the model. It's simply, again, back to the access to care. And I mean, some people will say, I'll pay more for access to care, but that's only because the convenience factor isn't there. So this is another piece that I find really interesting, and this is about protect what works. So unequivocally, there are parts of our system that are really working, and that people hold our entire system in high regard, but have less frustration around some of these kinds of care. So orthopedics and sports medicine, which we've had quite a lot of conversation about with the community, and the concept perhaps of a peak of excellence around orthopedics and sports medicine. What we really heard was that care is fine for now. So don't do that until you fix the access piece. Don't do that until you can open the front door and we have a place where we can have our healthcare home, and then we can start to look at what we do down the road. So it's really a message about sequencing. It's about start here and then move down the road. And that doesn't mean that we don't do anything in the coming months and the coming year to start to figure out how we might grow a peak of excellence. It's just that we will not take resources from figuring out what access to care looks like in order to do that work. But there might be different pieces of our organization that touch different kinds of work, and so we can pull on those and do that work sort of as we're waiting to go forward. Really, the no need for rapid expansion. I think really what we're hearing is a kind of a message of caution there. You know, do it, but do it right. Do it carefully. Listen to us about what we want. I will just add, there kind of is, these, we hear about some of the things people really want. People really want podiatry, they really want dermatology, so we are hearing from the community what they want, but it's in terms of sequencing how we go about doing that. And I think I said this the last time I was here, but I think it's worth repeating every time we talk to the public about the results we're getting, which is that the care that happens at Tahoe Forest is world-class. That our problem is that people want to get care here, and we need to make more access to that. So the care at Tahoe Forest is amazing, is something that we heard across the board. So this is what we're really talking about in terms of sequencing. So, starting with the front door with affordability embedded in that piece, and we will be, talking to you and coming to you and the community about more pilots around affordability and what that might look like. And then the planning for growth piece is really the sequenced expansion, not a parallel focus. And then really the care gaps is sort of the third piece of it. So women's health has come up as a place where there might be some gaps. Mental health or behavioral health services always is something that rises to that level. Neurology, dermatology, and I know that Debbie wants me to add podiatry to this list because I think they hear it a lot. So, this, when you see True North come before you next month, you will see it sort of based on this plan that we've put together based on the input that we've had from our community. So this is again where we start thinking about what we're calling this, and we feel like health within reach is the right bucket, and it sort of talks about what we want. But we're really open to input in terms of what the other two buckets are called. So growth where it matters is kind of where we are now, but we would certainly take input on what that might be, on how we might talk about the sequencing, on how we might talk about, protecting what works well now while we fix the pieces we need to. And transformation, the transformation piece is really an internal piece about how our organization supports this work and how we structure ourselves for the future. So we're open to what these look like, but I do want to reflect here that you will see sort of the concept of peak of excellence perhaps, come further down in the sequence just because of what we've heard from the community. So that is my presentation. I would love to hear comments anybody has and absolutely take questions. And so, Chairman Gary, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. And this is just a teaser of what's to come?
Things to come.
Yeah.
I think what you'll see next month is much more of the strategy, right? It's not just the 5,000 voices. It's much more of the actual strategic plan piece is what you'll see.
What's the plan for 5,000 voices once the fiscal year is ended?
Yeah. This is not an effort that has stopped. Even this week, we're doing some specific outreach to our historically underserved communities, those that don't use English as a primary language. So we're not stopping. We'll continue to look at resources and how we take in input from people. The survey, in terms of the questions that it has on it now, has probably run its course, but there are other questions we can ask. And I would have every expectation that the survey tool that we're using will be a living, breathing tool that we use. And I think, we've done so many in-person and community outreach. In fact, I think we've been to every coffee house that, that exists between Incline and here, which has been, great fun. And, but we'll have to be a little more select in how we do that, just because we want to make sure that we're using our resources the way we need to, and we'll need to shift some of those resources as we go forward. But this is not a one and done. I mean, this kind of relationship with our community is how we perceive the future, I think, and Anna can jump in on that any way she wants to, but.
No, I agree. I mean, I think one of the things we also heard consistently from the community was gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
They would love to, inform the system, their health system. And, frankly, as a leader in the system, it's very helpful.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things we have to go in a room and kind of knock through, and really to have that input from the community is extremely informative, and has actually shifted our thinking, because we really want to be aligned with the community. And when I say community, I mean with a big C, also the people who work here. They have really, they're part of this whole care and health experience of the people who live here. So it has been very, I do think we don't yet have first of all, we don't have any plans to sunset, inputs, nothing's shutting. And I think we also have learned a lot of things about how to catalog and capture and utilize feedback in a different way. I think we had much, less avenues than we do now. Mm-hmm. And I think we don't want to lose that. And I think we still recognize there's a bunch of areas we have not hit yet. And there's a lot of people who we have not heard from yet. And so it certainly won't be done. And I think we actually, when we move into kind of what's the ongoing work around ensuring we have community feedback, as well as feedback from Tahoe Forest team members, and it's meaningful, and they really do get to be design partners with us. I think that, that will continue to evolve and probably become stronger going forward. And we may talk about it differently a year from now, but I don't think it will end. Yeah, it's been I just want to say to the community and to the people who work here on our team who have come to the input sessions and or gone around and handed out a card or, a flyer. It's been probably one of the best parts of the work this last, 6 months. It's really a great experience. And as people who work here, sometimes getting out and hearing and I will say one thing that wasn't in here is that people are rooting for us, and people love the workers at Tahoe Forest. I mean, people love Tahoe Forest. And so it is it really is a challenge for us to kind of meet them where they are and be what they see, because they have so much optimism and hope for our system. I think, Carly, you don't have that kind of support from the community without people truly believing in this system, and it's because they believe in the people in the system. So it's been a really, really enriching experience for us as well. I think the community has expressed a lot of appreciation, but on behalf of the Tahoe Forest team, I would like to express that appreciation and gratitude back to the community, because they did. They came in, they had coffee. They are amazing. Pine Street Cafe team made many, 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 refreshments for us to host a lot of discussions, and they were deep discussions. People came in to talk about what it's like to sort of come to us, and many times people are coming to us at on the worst day of their life or in really complicated times, and it's a privilege and an honor to be able to be in conversation with people about that. And so I just want to express gratitude for that. And we don't have any plans to stop it, but what it looks like going forward, we really recognize we have to put some thinking around how we continue that.
I think most of our community members know the construction projects that are going on. The Rite Aid's getting refurbished, the Gateway Center here. Maybe a lot of Truckee residents don't know about the Dollar Hill facility that's getting rebuilt. as these projects come online, how do you think it's going to impact some of the concerns that our citizens have?
So I think a couple of things I would say is, back to kind of, this will really take a lot of disciplined, measurable work and redesign work. We do anticipate that we will, right now, we're doing about 165, or last year we did about 165,000 appointments. I don't know what we're tracking at this year. Forhard probably does, but somewhere around there, right? But we anticipate when they're sort of in their fullest form, once they've ramped up, that we're going to add an additional about 50,000 appointments. That said, I just want to say, you can't sort of hire your way out of this and, increase. This will take, core model redesign and some instances. Certainly, we will have more. Certainly, that will mean we will have to onboard, and I know that HR is here, some HR is here tonight, and the medical staff, and it's a lot to hire staff. It's a Herculean effort. But in addition to that, there will be a lot of, I think there will have to be a lot of deep diving into how we deliver care. What pieces of our model do we take forward? How do we build on that? How do we strengthen that? And is there pieces of the care model that we don't yet have? And again, so one of the things I will just say, where I would slightly refine Kim's comments is, it's not that we aren't going to expand, but we're going to be expanding at our core. And I think that it will take investment in the infrastructure, in our staff, in our community, and it will take some time to sort of challenge, can we do that even better? And is there another way that we can do that? So I will say there really will be, when it's fully open, wide open, and we've hired everybody we anticipate an extra 50,000 appointments. And I will also say that would not be enough to take us, to reduce our third next available in a very measurable way. We'll have to do a lot more disciplined work, and we'll have to, and that's like everyday work too. That isn't work we can just kind of get done by June and go, we're done. That will be every single day work forever. Yeah.
Somebody did say to us that, we really should consider the peak of excellence to be primary care or access to care. And that makes some sense in my mind. We didn't want to lose the piece about the sequencing, right, and the longer term outlook. So we didn't necessarily take that route. But in my mind, that sort of framed how important it was to them that we fix that piece of the business.
I will say too, just to add to that, we are not only adding those 3 clinics, but you will hear about some other sort of liberated models, maybe some mobile clinics. And I do think, when we say primary care, we're sort of saying that with a capital P. We know that has pediatrics, that has OB, that has family medicine or primary care, but it also has community health, which I think can play a really big role, because we will have to sort of expand. I mean, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about those front doors. The community health store may get a lot bigger, and there's a lot I think we can tap into. So I just want to, I promised Lauren I wouldn't pick on her today, so I won't call her up or anything, but she's here, and she's been tracking this very closely, and she's, I think there's a lot of opportunity to grow. We have just a lot of exciting, I think, ways we can go with this.
Please.
Okay, thank you. So typically we represent the voice of the community, but you've taken that from us.
Oh, sorry.
So I'm kind of a little bit of a loss of hearing all what people have said, Tahoe Forest this, that, to bring to you, and you brought it all to us.
To make your job easier.
6,000 of them, so thank you. So I can't tell you, because I'm hearing all the things. I love the phrase that I hear, do it, but do it right. So the urgency to do it, but do it right. The patience, the gratitude of the community, from there as well. I still hear, that's rich hospital, got lots of money, I get charged a lot, those comments will always be there. And so I think to the community that's watching or community that's here, I think as a board, we, responsible for Duchère, responsible for this hospital. That's that we were hired, voted in to do. And so this is going to take investment, what I think. And so I thank you, Anna, that we were able to have you here, we came on, and this journey that you're taking us on, we're very grateful for that. But I think as a board, we look to how we can invest in this to really make this happen. So I can't, and I'm sure I'll hear a lot from the community about that. So look forward to those
And
conversations.
this is just a bit of an aside, but the strategic plan will have a series of appendices attached to it, and one of them will be a log of the community comments that we have. So you'll be able to sort of see, every single comment that we were able to log, and so you might find that interesting at 3:00 in the morning when you don't have anything else to read. Or is that just me? Am I the only one that does that?
And I just want to do an acronym check, or the strategic plan Kim's referring to is the True North
True North,
Plan.
yes.
And it really, because a strategic plan tends to be sort of business-centric and hospital-centric, the True North Plan will be the hospital strategy in service to the community. So I think it'll feel a little bit different, and I hope that's a good thing to our community. And don't worry, we will bring you a budget next month. So you'll have a chance to invest, and Crystal's in the back right now typing on it. So, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for going out there on all those days and listening to everyone that had something to say and not get frustrated, taking notes all the time, being able to collate the information. Also want to thank the community for coming out and doing it. They didn't have to. They can sit there and complain all they want about things, but to show up and to say what's on their mind, I want to commend them for that. And that we will be giving them feedback as we start to develop plans or come up with actionable items to meet one of their requests. And also to say, we're sorry, we're not going to be able to do that. And be able to really explain to them the reason why. So thank you again.
Well, clearly, this was not my work, this was a team's
Yeah.
work, and Jen Malone is here, and Devin Kim was a huge help in that regard, and so it was a small army. Director Chamblin? We can't choose one of the team?
Good.
Was there any feedback? This is by far, at least in my time on the board and sort of associated with the health system, by far the biggest outreach we've ever undertaken. Were there any comments about that? Was the community like, oh my God, this is so great you are out here? Or how was it perceived that they were kind of out in the community?
I mean, I heard a ton of gratitude, to Anna's point. We had a couple of events where people actually just scheduled themselves to come to the event, and maybe it was a 2-hour time frame at the coffee house, or we might have done it at a restaurant that served beer, but they came to stay for the 2 hours. They showed up at 5 and they were still there at 7 because they're so engaged in the system that they also wanted to hear. They also wanted to be part of the I mean, one woman came with a 2-page document. She was like, and she said, I wasn't sure somebody would actually be here to listen to me, so I wrote it all down. And then she sat down with one of the members of the team and walked them through it. That's how people are so, I think grateful is the word I would use for the opportunity to give us input, and we are so grateful to get it that it has been a positive experience all the way around. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't people who are very passionate about some of the things that maybe we've not done really great. We want to hear those too, right? And I think they also appreciate the opportunity to share those experiences with us. So, yeah. And Jen, if you have anything you would add?
Fantastic. Well, as this is just a teaser trailer for the main event next month, I'll keep my comments to a minimum. Any more from the board, though, before we go to audience? To the audience, any comments, input, feedback?
Here we go.
One brave soul.
A Truckee Road.
If you wouldn't mind, state your name for the record, and comments are 3 minutes, yeah.
Is this on or off? Red light.
Red light, yep.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Barney Dewey. My first experience with Tahoe Forest was about 18 years ago in the ER. And I must say that ever since then, I've really believe this is the best hospital I've ever been in, and I've never had a bad experience here at all. So I wanted to thank Kim for the presentation. I don't know if you know this, but she came to the Rotary Club back on April 2nd and gave a slightly different presentation, which I really appreciated the points in both of them. And it encouraged me to come here tonight. And I'm just going to talk about maybe one little teeny narrow thing, but it's important to me, point of view. Anyway, one of the things that stood out to me the most in her presentation was the issue about primary care access. I know we've talked about that. I mean, she had said, I believe, that at some points it's between 2 and 5 months to try to get an appointment under, certain circumstances. And, that's very concerning. It's just not the patient inconvenience issue. I think it's a significant system issue with implications for the community health and Tahoe Forest's long-term position as the community healthcare provider. I've used a concierge doctor for over 30 years, and I currently have one that is in Grass Valley. She, because she knows I live up here, refers me to all the specialists up here. And so, she, even though far away, is really a supporter of this. But, patient access with a concierge doctor is really, really a great experience. I would say that when patients can't get timely access to primary care locally, they often establish relationships outside of the Tahoe Forest system. Once that happens, some specialty care, diagnostics, procedures probably leave the Tahoe Forest system. So this is not only a primary care access issue, it is also a system-wide patient retention issue. I understand concerns about Tahoe Forest employing concierge physicians, given the public structure and the tax support. However, the board should not dismiss this option too quickly. Concierge care offers more than just fast access. It includes a comprehensive annual physical, closer care coordination, and usually a bundled set of labs and diagnostic costs, all included within the concierge fee. If there's some concern about doing it in the district, you still have Incline Village, which is not in the district that it could be done in.
I'm going to say we're on the limit comments to 3 minutes, so you're at that, but if you just want to kind of make your closing points, yeah.
Okay. Obviously, I think Tahoe Forest should make primary care strategic priority. I don't think there's one solution. I don't think it's this, but I do think that it's very important to look at all of these, and that's an option. Thank you.
Barney, thank you very much.
Mr. Dewey wrote me a very lovely, well-thought-out email, and I will ask Sarah to forward that all to you all. It basically outlines everything that we heard from the community in a very thoughtful manner, and so I encouraged him to be here tonight, so thank you for that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other audience input? All right. This was an item for discussion, so no action taken. Moving into items 16, a number of items for board action tonight. Starting first with our calendar year 2025 annual infection control report.
Take my mask off, so. My name is Svetlana Shop. I'm the infection preventionist for Tahoe Forest Hospital. Thank you for having me here this evening. Oh, turn it on. Thank you. I didn't know it was a red light. Should I reintroduce myself? Svetlana Shop, infection prevention and control nurse for Tahoe Forest Health System. I want to take this as an opportunity to raise awareness about a few threats that we may be facing or are facing in some instances in our communities. And I saved some of the slides from the deck that I was given, and I've added some of mine. And the first one is vaccine preventable disease risk. And I specifically want to bring your attention to measles. You probably have heard a lot of things on the news about measles and multiple outbreaks happening around the country. And measles is extremely contagious viral illness. And a good way of looking at it is every measles case can produce 12 to 18 secondary cases. It's the R naught that you probably have heard the term over the course of the pandemic. So, and that would affect the unvaccinated people. Another way of looking at it is out of 10 people who are unvaccinated and they get exposed to measles, 9 will become ill. So that's pretty staggering numbers. And of course, the next slide I have just kind of an R naught explanation. It's a basic reproduction rate, a number. And you can see on the left, influenza and COVID. The secondary infections from one person is about 2, and measles could be upwards of 18. So again, very, very infectious, especially for those, dangerous for those who are not vaccinated. So escalating public health risk all around. As of, this is a little bit old of an information, but as of earlier in the month, there were 1,700 cases in the country. In California, more locally here, we have 39 cases in California, and the closest to us, more of a significant outbreak is in Greater Sacramento area and Placer County. And when we hear Placer County, it's kind of a concern, but it is currently happening on the west side of the county, closer to Sacramento County. And there was an exposure at an event, and that's kind of, that outbreak is still ongoing. Those are the latest numbers I got about a week ago. So what is herd immunity? How can we protect ourselves? Herd immunity is when we look at, for measles specifically, it's 95% of the population should be immune to measles. And what it does, it's this communal protection that stops the pathogen from finding susceptible hosts. So if 95% of us are vaccinated or have immunity to measles, we basically play as a stop sign to measles and say, you can't move any further than me, and I don't get infected. And so in majority of the cases in the country, as well as in California, majority of the cases are not vaccinated. And a lot of them are kids, and that's where a lot of it is spreading. So what have we been doing in terms of preparedness? We obviously, from personal perspective, we all should be immune to measles. MMR vaccination is measles, mumps, rubella. It's 2 vaccination or 2 doses. If people have never been vaccinated, it's 2 doses at least 28 days apart. And that provides 97% protection from measles, which is a pretty great number for vaccine effectiveness. We'll never get 100, but we'll take 97%. It's really great. And then what are we doing within the health system? We've done a lot of education. We've done a CME recently on measles and really explaining. Dr. Havenik did a great job of walking over the rashes, and different illnesses present with rashes, and how do you differentiate measles from chickenpox. It was really, really insightful. We had a public health officer come in and really talk from public health perspective and how we should be prepared. And then I spoke a little bit to the infection prevention measures that we can take. So our emphasis is early recognition and then prompt isolation. And the reason for that is measles is an airborne illness, and it can hang in the air for 2 hours after that person leaves the area. Now, I listened to another webinar on Monday from CDPH, California Department of Public Health, and one thing they said that in healthcare facilities, they don't look at 2 hours, they really look at 1 hour, because our HVAC systems are so much more robust than a home environment or a restaurant down the street. So they really emphasize 1 hour. So if we were to do a tracer for exposure, we would only look perhaps at 1 hour. They also talked a lot about knowing how the air mixes and what this air may be pushed out where and who could be exposed to that. So that was very insightful. Other things we're looking at, if we start seeing community spread or community transmission of measles, we would need to have a better plan and robust plan for post-exposure prophylaxis or PEP. And there's two ways of provide that. One is through administering MMR vaccination, and one is through administering immunoglobulin for high-risk populations. So we're looking into that as well. That's kind of measles awareness. My next topic is zoonotic, and you probably guys know zoonosis is when a disease jumps from an animal to a human. How many of you have heard of hantavirus?
Yeah.
Are you aware of that? So hantavirus is endemic to our area in California, and so one thing to remember, it is a rare but it can be very severe illness. And so about 30% of people in California who have gotten this or been diagnosed had a fatality rate of 30%. In the case of hantavirus, one of the things that can happen is the most severe form of disease or illness is a hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. And that's when the lungs fill up with fluid because there is capillary leakage that's happening because of how virus affects our bodies. And when that happens, you can imagine we can't gas exchange and we can't breathe. And in that case, patients need to go to a higher level of care with a machine called ECMO. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's extracorporeal membrane oxygenation machine. And so it's essentially when patients are placed on that machine, it bypasses the heart and lungs and lets them rest while the machine is doing a lot of the oxygenation or gas exchange. So the lungs and heart can rest and recuperate. In terms of have we seen it here, last year there were 5 cases that we diagnosed. Some patients were transferred out. I don't believe any of them ended up on ECMO, but in 2024 we had 1 case and a fatality with that case. And at that time, there was no ECMO available. The closest one, I think, was in UC Davis, and we couldn't transfer the patient fast enough. And now we do have an ECMO machine access at Renown. They have it now. They started, I believe, sometime last year. So it's an option. And physicians, emergency room physicians, urgent care physicians, I think, are very aware of it. And they're very passionate about it. They've done case reviews and such in their meetings, and it's really on the forefront. And how do we get hantavirus? Anybody know? Mice droppings. Sweeping the garage. So now as we're reopening our sheds from the winter, or maybe people have a cabin, a very rustic one, and it's maybe not very tight, and mice may have made nests there. So you have to be really, really careful on how you do that. And how do you do that? So you want to seal the holes and gaps. You want to trap the mice, but you don't want to do catch and release with them. You want to actually do snap traps. I'm sorry, the mice have to die, but it is to help reduce the infestations. And to clean the area, really, you want to air out the area. You want to do not want to sweep or vacuum because that stirs up the particles and you inhale it, and that's how you get infected. And then only use wet cleaning methods. So ideally, if you find a nest or remnants of mice droppings or urine, you can maybe see staining. You want to use 10% bleach solution, 1 part bleach, 9 parts water, and then saturate the area. You don't want to spray it because that could also aerosolize things. So just pour it down, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then you can mop it up and throw it in the garbage. So wearing gloves helps, but also wearing a respirator sometimes can help as well, just an extra measure of protection. So that's hantavirus. My last topic is tuberculosis. As you probably have heard, we did have an exposure within our health system last year, and we did a tracer and managed the incident. It took several months. But what is tuberculosis? It's an airborne bacterial infection. So we've talked about 2 viral infections. Measles is really infectious. Hantavirus is not infectious person to person, but it could be deadly. And then you have tuberculosis. So tuberculosis is it's not as infectious as measles. So I was looking up R naught of tuberculosis. It's 1 to 4. But with that said, you have to be in close contact with the person for hours, weeks, days or weeks sometimes. And at close contact, so usually the household contacts are the highest risk, or people maybe commuting together for long periods of time in the car, like carpooling or something. But ideally, the highest risk people are the household contacts. To split that a little bit further, you have a latent TB infection, you have active TB disease. When a person gets exposed to TB, active TB disease, they typically come down with latent TB, and it's about 30% of individuals that get exposed can go on to developing latent TB. And that is when infection is dormant, when our immune system is keeping it in check and we're not infectious, we don't have any symptoms. But at some point in our life, it could transition to active disease, and that could be something, maybe our immunity wanes or we get older. And so if we do develop active TB disease, you have a lot of respiratory symptoms, weight loss, et cetera, and that's when people are really infectious. So I just wanted to differentiate, because sometimes people don't understand, like, if they've been exposed, it doesn't mean they're going to have active TB on day 1 or even within a few weeks. It doesn't happen that quickly. In fact, when we test for TB, for active TB disease, when we collect sputum, the first test they do is they do a smear or stain to see if there's AFB organisms present. They stain a certain way. But then in order to confirm if they're found, in order to confirm if it's actually tuberculosis, because there's other organisms that could act the same way, you have to wait for 6 weeks for the cultures to result. They read it every 2 weeks, and they resulted in the chart, but the final culture doesn't come in. So it's a very slow-growing bacterium, and therefore it just takes time for us to even become latent TB disease. So in terms of our incident that we had, that we discovered, the exposure event impacted a little bit over 400 patients and visitors and 65 healthcare workers. And what happened with that, we work with public health, and what public health determined is that all of our potential exposures were pretty low risk, because nobody was in the airspace with the patient together for hours on end. So patient may have had an appointment and left, and we cast a very wide net to capture a lot of patients, to just be on the safe side per public health guidance. And then from there we went. They advised us to identify patients who are the highest risk for developing active TB disease, and those are the patients with compromised immunity, whether it's a medication they're taking or treatment they're receiving, for example, for cancer, or some other medication or some other illness that they may have. Out of that, we identified between the patients who wanted to get tested because they received notification that they may have been exposed, and patients who we literally had to call and say, hey, public health thinks that you could benefit from testing. This is where you go. This is how it works. We work with that, and then 90 patients ended up being tested. So it's almost quarter of the exposed. So that was a really good number. And out of the 90 patients, we identified 4 who had latent TB. And public health was, I think, surprised that we didn't identify more, because some people have been exposed to TB during travel or for some other reason, or they were born in another country and they were exposed when they were growing up there. And so they kind of warned us when we first met with them that we will see a lot of incidental findings that had nothing to do with this exposure. And the consensus from public health was on those 4, they were probably exposed elsewhere. And it's just we identified, and I believe all 4 ended up being treated for it, which is a good thing, so it doesn't progress to active disease later on. The response took several months of management in terms of reaching out to patients, identifying those at high risk. We needed to arrange testing. We didn't charge the patients, obviously, for that, and retesting. So if the patient was exposed towards the end of that period, of the exposure period that we identified, they may need to be retested. Because typically when somebody gets exposed to TB, you test them as soon as you discover the exposure, and that's called the baseline, and then you retest them 8 to 10 weeks later, because again, it's a slow-growing organism, so they may not convert, so to speak. So we want to double check in 10 to 10 weeks. And so we retested a number of patients. And let's see if I have any other things. Oh, so one thing about California is that in California, the TB rates are twice the national average. That sounds very alarming when you look at the numbers. So we have 5.4 cases per 100,000 population in California of TB cases. In nationwide, it's about 3 per 100,000. So it's about double. So California had passed a law recently that started January 2025, where primary care providers are supposed to test or TB risk assessment perform on all their patients at least once. And then if something changes or they travel or they get exposed, then you retest them. So that's something that's happening in the clinics. And then if you want to know what that risk assessment or questions are, it's usually if people were born outside of the U.S., if they travel or reside outside of the U.S. for more than a month, if they have any kind of immunosuppression, whether it's illness, organ transplant, or any kind of medications that cause immunosuppression, and then close contact, if they've been told you've had close contact with TB disease illness in their lifetime, and then homelessness or incarceration, because everything is in close quarters that way. In fact, somebody told me recently, Reno, I think, is having issues with TB in the homeless population, which is not surprised. But that's, so that's kind of, if you answer yes to any of those four, then that triggers further screening, which includes blood test. And if that's positive, then you get worked up for active TB, which is usually chest x-ray. And if that's clear and there's no symptoms, then it's presumed then latent TB, and then there's usually advice to treat it. And that's kind of, wanted to bring awareness to those three things that are happening. If you have any questions.
I'd add something.
Of course.
I don't want this to, I don't want to pass over to the board before I just acknowledge, like, publicly the work of Svetlana and the Dr. Evans and the team that they assembled, from IT to tracers, working with Dr. Cook, I think, and her team which is the county health officer. This was a really monumental effort to reach out, and I think also you heard the depth here at Tahoe Forest for people to answer the phone and get this news. I just want to acknowledge the amazing work by all of you for this. It was a really big task that they undertook. They did it professionally, calmly. I would put them up against any public health department, and I can say that. And I just what an amazing asset to have in this community, to have this kind of a public health response, actually, locally, and the very clear and close connection and working relationship that they have with the public health department. I just want to acknowledge that out loud and just acknowledge my gratitude, and also a sense of relief that you're here. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you for the presentation. From the board, any questions, comments? Is anyone else afraid to go outside? Or maybe stay inside in the case of hantavirus?
I'll just add on to that comment. I mean, well, what a busy year. What a year. But thank you. And I think to add on to what Anna said about just amazing to have this this public health available to our community. And as we deal with measles now, and just hearing that plan already of vaccinations, obviously the clinical pathway, making sure every clinician here understands what they're looking for, and then reporting how to test, how to treat those that may need immunizations or immunoglobulins, and how to report it. Just again, it's in a time of fear, it's nice to know that this hospital is looking out for the community as its entirety. And unfortunately, we had a tuberculosis exposure, and if you look at how well that worked out, 4 people got treated for TB, they got somewhere else. So, that just shows the effort and the care. So, thank you.
At risk of maybe turning this into, not a political conversation, but we are seeing sort of just almost an attack on the sciences, attack on vaccinations, but again, depending on your position, you might be thinking, well, we've been attacked our whole life. People are making us get these vaccines. But locally, and Brian, this might be a question maybe to you. I know you've been doing a lot of outreach. Within our local community, what's the general vibe? Is it consistent with what we're seeing nationally? Is it how do we sit within our community? If that's a fair question.
I think that's a fair question, yeah. And first of all, I just want to add my thanks to Svieta for that really an excellent report, but also just for the last 12 months of tons of hard work, which we see it. We see how relentless you are. We know that you're out there stamping out disease with both feet, so thank you for that. I think to your point, this has been an interesting year. It's not just this year, but there's been a lot of misinformation out there, some of it coming from the federal government. I would say that in this community, there's less that are, prone to sort of buying into that misinformation, and they're much more interested in a very scientific approach and someone applying science very directly to solve these complex problems like Svieta does. So, but that said, it's out there. I think it's on us to make sure that we do our part to make sure that the right information is getting out there, that we are applying science very concretely, very transparently, and we're not chasing nonsense. So I really appreciate Svieta's approach to this. When the tuberculosis event occurred, that required a lot of extra hours, late nights, early mornings from her specifically, but also colleagues of hers in the quality department and elsewhere, and a close collaboration with public health. So it's been gratifying to see, but we really do have, multiple jobs as a healthcare system, including informing people about how to take care of themselves. But I really appreciate the effort to protect our patients, our staff, and our community.
And I think too, Dr. Evans, your PSAs on Facebook have been really helpful. I mean, I've heard people say, well, your physician said, or this Dr. Evans that works with you said. And so it's getting out there, and again, you're going back to what science is saying and not what fake news is putting out.
Well, I heard someone had watched them, and I guess it was you, so thank you for doing that.
Just remember us when you get big. Remember the little people. Yeah.
Brian, question. Are there mandatory vaccination requirements for school-age kids?
Well, to be enrolled in public schools, yeah, you do need to be vaccinated. There are some, charters that are not doing that, but in our public school system, you are required to be vaccinated, so we have a very high vaccination rate.
And that
in the
includes
Truckee area.
Polio, includes measles?
Yes, it includes MMR, it includes, polio, pertussis, DPT, diphtheria, tetanus,
Okay.
polio. Polio? No, not polio, no. Not required, sorry.
Not required. Oh.
Yeah, I retract that statement. Yeah, used to be, but basically a done deal at this point. Thank goodness. A good example of why vaccines work and why we should believe in them.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions from board?
Yeah.
Turn to the audience. Any comments, questions, input on this topic? No? All right. Again, thank you very much. Moving on.
It is an action item. We do need to approve
I'm sorry.
the
Thank
report.
you. Thank you. It was our first item for action under 16.1. Thank you for the reminder. Looking for
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the Infection Prevention and Control Annual Report.
I'll second it.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All All right, approved 4-0. Thank you very much. And thank you, David, for the reminder. Item 16.2, also an item for board action, Placer County LAFCO Special District Representative Selection. Our very own Ted Owens.
Ted points me, do you want to open? I don't. I want Ted to do this. But I'd love to hear Ted talk about LAFCO. I do. It's actually quite interesting.
Because it's a very exciting topic, actually, but a very important one. Before you this evening, by the way, Ted Owens, Executive Director, Governance. Before you this evening is a ballot vote for a vacancy that exists on the Placer County Local Agency Formation Commission. The commissions in California consist of, or they exist in each county, they consist of 7 members, 2 from special districts, 2 from cities, 2 from the county, and a citizen at large. There are 3 candidates. You might wonder why are we in Placer County LAFCO when our hospital is domiciled here in Nevada County? And it's kind of interesting. It's based on valuation of assets, so it's property asset valuation, which is greater in the Placer County portion of our district than it is in the Nevada County portion of the district. So by law, we are assigned to the Placer County LAFCO. And that's why that is before you this evening. You have 3 candidates on the ballot. You have that in your, I believe in your packet. If you do not, I will read them. Jody Friedman, who is with the Tahoe City Public Utility District and an incumbent. Ross Hutchings with the Placer Mosquito and Vector Control District, and Jennifer Kinsley, or Nicely, I guess, Newcastle Rockland Gold Hill Cemetery District. Some of the things you might wish to discuss, it would be location of the candidates' special district within Placer County, perhaps their experience serving on a LAFCO, or maybe some other things that you'd like to talk about or ask. There are 28 special districts in the Placer County LAFCO realm. That's quite a bit, and many of them are up here on the eastern reaches of Placer County. With that, there is also a recommended motion for you to utilize as you wish to cast a ballot or cast a vote on the ballot. I'm available to answer any questions.
For clarity, this is one candidate we agreed on, or could it be individuals have?
You would select one of the 3.
As a board, we select one.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. First off, I did not know that there was a mosquito and vector control district. Or a cemetery district, for that matter, yeah.
Our cemetery districts.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Rarely have public comment at those. But
Ted, on Judy Freeman, was she appointed at one point filling a empty seat, or was she voted in?
I think we voted on her as an alternate originally, wasn't it?
That's what it
As an
was.
alternate for special district
Yep.
representation, and then
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And she's not.
The regular seat vacancy a year ago.
Right.
Okay.
There was a different alternate.
Well, whatever she was on.
So Ted, are you looking for a recommendation for the board to pick one individual?
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Well, I would say, first of all, I know Judy, and she's a dedicated public servant, and she represents our area, which is great. So that would be my recommendation, but subject to whatever others feel.
I would agree with it on 2 things. One is she represents our area. She's from the eastern part of Placer,
Yeah.
and she has been serving on LAFCO right along for the past, she's been on there already 1 term. So again, she's got the experience of LAFCO, and she's a better representative of our area because of living here.
Any additional thoughts, comments?
I mean, those are very good points to have. And
Agreed.
I don't have
Agreed.
much more to add, I think. Yeah.
All right. Before we take action, audience input?
Oh, her husband's on the board.
Ted, I just wondered if you wanted to give us a little thumbnail of the different applicants or different,
One applicant did not submit a letter. The other has experience with LAFCO. That would be Jennifer Nicely. She served, however, as a city representative to LAFCO as an alternate. And now she is serving on the cemetery district, and she's put her name in as the special district representative. But most of her experience has been on the city side. And Judy, to your point, has experience also. And Judy is, to your point, Director Chamblin, been in the area. She's almost a local at 50 years. And but has been very active in a variety of different ways, mostly in local government and nonprofits. Mr. Hutchings, I wish I could tell you more about him, but there just isn't the information in the packet to do so.
And just for the record, we did have those letters in our packet as well on both Judy and Jennifer. So we had their background and experience.
Yeah.
All right. Any additional audience input? No? Do we have what we need to make a motion? Or if so, would somebody be willing to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the board select incumbent LAFCO Commissioner Judy Friedman as the special district representative on LAFCO.
I'll second that.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion approved 4-0. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ted.
Yeah.
Item 16.3, Resolution 2026-03, support of Tahoe Forest Level 3 Trauma Center. Jan, I believe. Welcome, welcome.
Hi.
If you want to
Oh, yeah.
join us in the hot seat. Yeah.
Hello, thank you. So tonight, this resolution is coming forward again, like we did 3 years ago. We are coming up on our ACS survey, which will be May 6th and 7th. And so this resolution just covers us to have the support of the board for our continued Level 3 trauma program. So do you have any questions?
I guess I just want to make sure I got the reading here. Because as part of the accreditation process, ACS surveyors are looking for a specific, the board director support. I mean, you support what you guys do, I guess. I mean, so.
They want it to be an official support. We found that out 3 years ago.
Do they do that for, I mean, but we're not all hospitals are, I mean, all hospitals that want to get a level 3 trauma designation don't necessarily, I mean, I guess assume they have private or public boards, so I guess they must go to every single board. This is part of their protocol, I guess?
It's just kind of, I think they just want awareness. They want awareness that everybody is supporting this program, and this program hasn't been, pushed through or is not supported by everybody in the system. Obviously, they know, as the administration team and as our nursing leaders and our staff and physicians that we support this, but it's more of making sure that the board's aware of this program. And this is an every 3-year accreditation that we go through with ACE, which is with the American College of Surgeons.
And Dr. Dressing-Havitz, just to add to that, and I think just this is really the overt acknowledgement that there is very specific investments that have to happen in trauma. Mm-hmm. And as the fiduciary oversight body, they just want to make sure that, Jan and I didn't cook this up in the back room, and that you're really supporting it is a lot of commitment on behalf of the organization, and they really want to see that commitment coming straight from the governing body. So we appreciate you considering.
I appreciate that clarification, because what could seem like a formality, because I think, at least what I know of our board, we value the the trauma center. So it seems like a formality, but it is in fact, I think, in support of it.
It's an investment that
it
we're
is.
putting into.
It's a massive effort, which should be obviously recognized.
Yeah.
It's more than just a designation. It's a ton of work that goes behind it, so. But with that, any comments or questions?
We supported it the first time, we're going to support you again.
And they will be here virtually, unfortunately, but they have told us that in 3 years it will be in person, which we're looking forward to because we've never seen them in person.
Oh, they've never come by.
No, it's been virtual because of COVID. And-
Literally, right.
Yeah.
I think the only comment I have is obviously we're in the mountains, and there's a lot of trauma on the mountains. You would know.
I've seen it.
Yeah. And so I think and of course, just a recent tragedy that we had, I think, that partnership and seeing how the hospital has partnered with so many different partners outside of the hospital to have this as level 3 designation and to invest that money and to invest that, resources, I think is just so important for the people who do live and play here.
Yeah.
So.
Couldn't agree more. From the audience, any input, comments? We got 2 thumbs up. I got 3. Can I get 4? No. Fantastic. I believe we might have everything we need to make a motion, if someone would.
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-03 to support the Level 3 Trauma Center.
I second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resolution approved 4-0. Jan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, item 16.4. This is, I do believe, a little bit more of a formality. We do this every election season. But Sarah, if you want to walk us through it.
Correct, this is a formality. We consolidate our election with Placer and Nevada County. This year we have 3 board members up for election. The resolution needs to be turned into Placer County by July 1st, naming the board members, the term of the seat. July 13th, the candidate filing period opens. August 7th will be the close of the regular candidate filing period. And then November 3rd will be Election Day. Standard resolution language.
Yeah. Any clarifications needed? Comments? Questions? To the audience? No, again, just a formality, so we'd be looking for a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2026-04, Consolidate District Election Services 2026.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, resolution approved 4-0. Sarah, thank you. All right, final item for board action tonight, public hearing AB 2561.
That's what Lauren's saying, finally.
We're excited. This is exciting.
I was going to say status of vaccines. My eyesight's going a little bit here. It's not status of vaccines, it's status of vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts. I do believe, and for the benefit of everybody, I'm going to read through the introduction and scope of the public hearing. I believe that might take longer than the public hearing itself, but bear with me. Effective January 1st, 2025, Government Code Section 3502.3 required the Tahoe Forest Hospital District, TFHD, to present information on the status of employment vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts at a public hearing before Board of Directors at least once per fiscal year. We were also required to identify during the public hearing any necessary changes to TFHD policies, procedures, and recruitment activities that may contribute to obstacles in our hiring process. At the public hearing, recognized employee organizations for a bargaining unit are entitled to make a presentation to the Board of Directors addressing the status of vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts for positions within that bargaining unit. Last year, the board approved procedures as part of Resolution 2025-06, establishing protocols for TFHD's public hearings on vacancies to ensure a fair, orderly, and efficient hearing process. TFHD reserves the right to schedule separate public hearings for different bargaining units and is not limited to one public hearing to address all vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts within the district. The order of the hearing, we will first hear the district staff presentation. Following that, the bargaining units and American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employee Council 57, Local 3254 representatives will have an equal opportunity to present if they choose. After the presentations, we will open to questions from board members and clarifications from staff. Following board members' questions and clarifying comments, we'll open the public hearing. Public comment during the public hearing will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Following public comments, we will close the public hearing. Staff, bargaining units, and board members will then have an opportunity to make final remarks, and then board members will then consider a motion regarding the report. So, item 16.5, public hearing, AB 2561. We will start with a presentation from district staff. Good evening and welcome. And thank you for hanging out so long.
So it's a pleasure to be here this evening. I'm Lauren Caprio. I am the Director of Employee and Labor Relations, and this is Lucy Wright, our Talent Acquisition Specialist. So we are here to present and comply with the state 3502.3 of the California Government Code. And so currently the district has one recognized bargaining unit. It is AFSCME Council 57. Oh, I have a loud voice. Local 3254, which includes 4 job families. So currently we have 655 authorized full-time positions across the 4 job families. And there are 18 vacancies equating to a 2.75% vacancy rate. That is something we should be very proud of as an organization and a hospital district. So therefore, additional reporting requirements are not triggered, but we felt like we should use this opportunity to kind of brag of how great we're doing from a workforce standpoint. So, next. So, just a quick workforce snapshot. We currently have 1,462 employees employed here at the health system. The average tenure is 7.1 years, and just for some historical context, last year when we presented to you, it was at 6.8 years. So, you know, we are continuing to retain our employees, which is a great sign. So this really reflects our organization, that it's stable, experienced, and focused on serving our community. And more than 80% of our employees are in our job families, are stable and growing, and it really reflects a healthy overall workforce. For comparison purposes, last year we did present our workforce seniority and headcount, so we wanted to kind of give you an update on that for 2026. So as you'll see, most job families are either maintained or have increased with seniority. Our leadership and management roles have strengthened, and this supports our operational continuity. And our core represented groups, which we are required under this, is our EA, EAP, and our outpatient clinics that fall under those show a stable or growing headcount and tenure. And there's been some minor contractions in select roles, but that demonstrates normal transitions, and there's really no retention risk. This past year with our directors group, we had several, I think there were about 7 retirements that occurred. So we have actively been recruiting and filling those positions proactively, and our leadership team has been bringing deep experience, which supports consistent planning and decision making. So our overall trend really supports a strong retention, experienced workforce, and service continuity here. This is my favorite slide, and I'm going to have Lucy kick us off with this.
All right. Can I take this?
Of course.
Okay. So our vacancy levels remain low due to consistent proactive recruitment efforts. We haven't had many policy of recruitment changes over the last years, and we are continue to develop workforce pipeline and succession planning
I will talk to anyone who wants to talk about how great it is to work here at Tahoe Forest. I joined our organization in 2021 amidst COVID, and so we didn't really have a whole lot of like educational on-campus outreach. Since then, we have like strengthened our relationships with a lot of educational institutions, not only just here in the Truckee and Reno areas, but we're going as far as like Roseville and Sacramento. A great demonstration of this is one area of really hard recruitment for us is within our DI department. And so we have partnered with an educational institution in the Sacramento area, and our last two cardiac sonographers were actually hired out of their clinical rotations to work for our organization, which is really exciting. We have a job fair coming up for the town of Truckee in a couple of weeks, and we're doing some reach out, and not necessarily recruitment, but we're partnering with our volunteer, Tracy she's our volunteer program manager. We're going to Truckee High School at the end of the month. We've also developed a leadership development series. It's next week, which is finding the right fit recruitment strategies for recruiting top talent. So we'll share insights into the current recruitment trends, recruiting landscapes, and ways to strengthen our talent pipelines across, all departments. We haven't had a leadership development series like this previously, so it's going to be really beneficial on how leaders can partner with talent acquisition to attract candidates who are not only just qualified, but a strong fit for our organization and community.
And I would like to just give props to Tracy Cheney, who is our volunteer program manager. She has done a tremendous job and continues to do that into this next fiscal year, partnering with local schools. She's currently working with North Tahoe High School to develop a program with them where we will have some of our, across all fields at the health system, go and speak to the youth there. And then to Lucy's point, it's like developing our community, our youth and our community pipelines, because we have so much interest with our local youth in our health system. Thank you, Ted, for participating in Tech Teens either last week or the week before. So it's really exciting to see what we've been able to create here. Also, our PEAK program through our education department has been tremendous in allowing our youth to come and shadow in areas like surgery, women and family, and actually even human resources and IT. So it's really exciting to see our local youth just really, I would say, amped on, our health system and being in a healthcare career, whether that's in the clinical or non-clinical field. And I always tell our local youth when they come and visit the Human Resources Department, invest in your retirement immediately, because it's super important and they don't teach those things in school. So it's really exciting to see how we've really been developing and continue to develop those programs to really look at what our future workforce is going to look like. So,
I think too, personally, I think it feels really good to work for an organization and get to recruit for an organization that people want to work for. It's something that I hear across the board as I speak with candidates, not just in this local area, but across California and even outside of the state.
I will just share with you, Lucy and I were at a conference a couple weeks ago in Las Vegas, and we were talking to many vendors, and they all knew our health system. And people have connections to this area from all over the country, and it's really remarkable that they know who we are, whether they have family members that own second homes here. So we really are proud to represent where we work, and I think that is a reflection on our workforce and, our tenure of our workforce and our low turnover rate. So I guess our key takeaways here is we're doing an excellent job. We are compliant. And, we are really working to strengthen our leadership development in terms of whether it's succession planning, identifying roles and upskilling our employees, and keeping our retention and turnover, continuing to monitor it. So we're really excited, we're proud, and I will just end saying that it is a privilege to work here. As someone who's been here for 15 years, has been in this community, I can't speak volumes to how fortunate I do feel to be an employee here. And I would say that that would be the sentiment of most of our employees here. And I think it's reflective in our relationship with our union and how that has strengthened over the years. So and that is our presentation for you tonight.
Thank you very much.
Do you conduct exit interviews when people leave, and are there any patterns that are established?
So we do conduct exit interviews. That is one area our HR team is continuously working to improve upon and start looking at the data. So that is something we offer every employee. We do it in two different ways. We do a survey before when we find out that somebody is leaving the organization, whether that's they're going into retirement or they're relocating or they found another position somewhere else, which is rare. But we do offer them a survey that is anonymous, so they can, and some of those questions that we do ask are about our benefits, about career development and growth, and then we always offer an in-person interview as well with our HR business partner, so they have a forum to speak and tell us kind of their experience here. And so what we do with that information is we gather it quarterly, and then when we start tracking and seeing trends, we typically go to either the administrative council member or the director to share that information with them so they understand, where there's opportunities and where they're doing well. And I will say this week I heard from our HR business partner, she had just performed an exit interview on somebody who was relocating out of the area, and she told us in our staff meeting that this person just spoke so highly of the health system, of course, of the HR team, which I was surprised. A lot of people, those aren't comments that they make, but about their experience from, their pre-employment all the way until, unfortunately they were having to leave the area. So we try to do and share that information. But again, our turnover rate is relatively low. So as much as the information we get, we try to take as much from that.
I will say too, there are some weeks where we actually have more rehires than new hires. We have a lot of individuals who do come back to the organization after, trying out a new role.
Interesting.
Before we get into any additional comments, questions, I did want to make sure, I don't believe we do, but wanted to make sure we provide opportunity for each of the bargaining units to present, but I don't believe we do have.
Julie is not here this evening.
Okay. Great. So with that, if there are any board or staff questions beyond what Dale asked?
None. But thank you.
Yeah. I think a little bit outside the scope of the hearing maybe, but I did want to comment since you're here. I was also at a national conference a couple of weeks ago in Chicago. Somehow found myself at a panel discussion on sort of staffing and development, and actually referenced the work we do with our youth, with our teens. I think it's such an incredible, development opportunity to connect with. And I don't think it's unique to smaller towns maybe, but I think it is, we hear from kids in town as well, that just that real world connection and the ability to kind of see firsthand what, sort of adulting looks like in healthcare. It's fantastic and recognized, I think even beyond our region. So thank you on that. Keep up the good work on that.
Audience now.
Not yet. Not yet. Don't. There's something special coming.
Oh.
Yeah. So, Anna insists that I gavel with authority. We are now opening the public hearing. Opportunity for the public.
Oh.
Was that to wake them up?
We are now closing the public hearing. Okay. All right. I think we complied with the law, yes?
Closing remarks.
Any closing remarks? Well, we'll go back to the regular agenda, but that is actually for an item for action, right? We got to, yeah, okay. So we do need a motion to.
I'll make a motion.
Do we approve the?
To accept the report.
To accept the report, okay.
For the public hearing on reporting on TFHD's workforce vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts.
Need a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion approved, 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving through the closing items here, item 17, there were no items pulled from the consent calendar. Item 18, do we have any board committee reports from last month? No. Closing remarks, I have one for our next meeting, May 28th. Our regular meeting will reconvene after a dinner break at 5 p.m. instead of 6 p.m. So a little change there. We will begin the meeting at 4 p.m. as scheduled, but instead of 6, we're going to go into open session again at 5 because we have so many great things around strategy, budget, et cetera, et cetera. So sure to be a wonderfully long meeting. We're going to start it early. Any other closing remarks, comments?
I have one. I just wanted to give you an update on what's happening with the Navigation Center. It's been open, and we've had a mild winter. You have to agree to that. But in the last 5 weeks, they've had 33 unique individuals who have used the services in the Navigation Center. And these have been both staying overnight and using the day services. 79% were from Nevada County. There was always a concern that you build them, they will come. Well, Nevada County came. There were 15% from Placer and only 6 from other areas. There are those 16 interim beds, and those are the beds for individuals who are finding themselves maybe losing their apartment or their home or a business transition. And those beds were used 91% of the time. So there are a lot of individuals in that position. We will be having a TAC meeting on June 2nd, so we'll have more information about how the neighborhood's doing. From what I hear secondhand, that they're doing well, that there haven't been any complaints, and the Volunteers of America have been doing a really nice job in running that facility. So more to come. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alice.
Alice, do you know if there's a large turnover, or are there individuals who stay there for an extended period of time?
I don't know the number of days that the interim beds are filled by a unique individual. I don't know that. I just know that the beds are used 91% of the time.
91, wow, that's great.
Any update on the funding or how that's going? Because I know that the county was trying to go fast on quick.
Yeah, I don't have that, but hopefully on our June 2nd, we'll have a lot more information. That just came secondhand and through a newsletter.
Well, thank you for doing all that work.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you for the update. Appreciate it.
I guess, Mike, I have one quick question because that was, I think, as a board, as we go into, continuing sessions, I know this next few are quite busy, right? I mean, we're starting an hour early, so it sounds like from the board, obviously in the Brown Act, we're all here, so we can all talk freely. Is there anything you need from us for these next few sessions? It sounds like this is really, if I remember correctly, this is when I finally knew what was going on about this time last year. So, but it's also very much autopilot on budget. Obviously, we have strategy for True North, but that seems like the big buckets for next month.
I think bring your good questions, bring your,
Read your packet.
read your packets in detail. Yeah, no, just business as usual. Yeah, no special, other than just a lot of material to cover. Yeah, no special prep needed. We got close, but there were no closed session items that need to be continued, so we will go to meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for staying so late.
Thank you.
Softer.